Well, hello there, besties. It is I. Today we're filming in front of the tank. I don't really have proper light here in the living room. I need to buy one of those reflectors. We'll do that at some point when we have the budget. But anyway, excuse the lighting if it's not so well. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about cleanup crews. How important do you think cleanup crews are? I'll tell you, very. And it's so easy to take them for granted. We've always heard it a million times. Put some snails, put some Otocinclus, put some shrimps in there, and everything will be okay. So we do it and everything is okay, but we don't know what happens if we don't. Well, I did it, and I learned what happens if you don't put in a cleanup crew. And I'll share with you what happens and what drastic difference a cleanup crew does. Because besties, I did a boo-boo. I did not want this tank to have snails. No, and I've talked about this before. I don't like the fact that the nerite and the so-called horned nerite lay eggs everywhere, and they're hard to remove from wood pieces and stuff. I said, who needs snails? I needed snails, besties, and I'll tell you exactly how much of a difference they make, because I have been plagued with some birdies coming. You wanna be on video, honey? Look who we have here. We have Birdie. Is this your first appearance on camera? Maybe it is. Right, she's very shy, so we'll excuse her. Right, so I have been plagued with the worst case of diatom algae that I think I've ever gone through. And that's because I didn't have a cleanup crew, and it was so bad. Oh, look at her. She's really interested in you. Very distracting, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. When I film downstairs, Birdie needs to be in the video. Right, so it got so bad that some of my bucephalandras melted. And I've never had bucephalandra melt, which is very concerning. But anyway, I managed to fix it and I caught it all on camera. So let's go back in the past and show you how this aquarium used to look like, because it was not looking quite as good as this. You're gonna see what I mean. Alright, so first off, brown algae or diatom algae is quite common in early stages of an aquarium and usually goes away on its own as other algae and the plants compete with it. But if it's getting out of hand, it can actually do a bit of damage. And there are a few animals that can actually help us in keeping this algae from making more damage than it should. Now, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I told you in a community post that I need some snails in my life. And I also showed you a glimpse of what the Cleathon snails can do. Well, right after that, I collected all of the Cleathon snails that I had in my other tanks and I put them all in this tank. And let me just show you what they can do. I put the snails on the most affected parts, and in this case, to better see results, I put them on the rocks. Now, for everybody's sanity, I will speed up a little bit the footage because these guys are not fast quite at all. But you can already see them starting to eat away at the diatom algae. They actually love it. And trust me when I tell you, not even my brushes are doing such a good job. Not to mention that I need constant grazing of this algae. So my brushes really were just a waste of time on my part. So here it is after just a few hours. You can actually see the color of the rock underneath. It is absolutely spotless. And just a few hours later, the second day, look at the rock that I showed you in the picture. It is absolutely clean, and this was done in one night by just 2 snails. Now, sadly, I didn't have enough snails, nerite or cleathons to help me with everything, so I actually purchased a few more snails. Here I am adding some actual nerite snails, the big ones, right on the wood. As you will see, I'll give you close-ups, the wood had some issues as well. Not necessarily diatoms, but other types of little algae as well. A little side note, at these stages in my aquarium, I'm still experiencing a lot of leaching of tannin from the wood, so everything was absolutely brown. The water was brown, the plants and the decor was brown, and even my fish were brown. At some point, everything was just brown and I got so fed up with it, I got a few more fish and anyway. So what you see here are just a few more snails that I managed to find at the pet shop. They are nerites. They're small nerites. I didn't actually find Cleathon snails, but they did do the job. As my personal observation, nerites, even though very, very efficient, they move much slower than Cleathon snails. And this is why typically you will see aquarists preferring the Cleathon snails, also called horned nerites, to nerites. It's not that they do not lay eggs, they do, but they just move faster. Another thing to know is that no matter how pretty and good at maintaining a clean aquarium cherry shrimps are, they will not put a dent in diatom algae. They will eat a little bit of it, but nothing compared to the Clethon snails. Now, taking a look at the pieces of wood, we can already see that the zebra nerite that I have here already made some paths. We can see portions of the wood that already look clean, and you can see what type of little algae had on this wood. Which, you know, when the aquarium settles and stabilizes, everything will be much cleaner, but it is actually important in the very beginning of an aquarium to keep these under control, because the worst that can happen, which happened to me, is melt. And this time I actually had a lot of melt on my Bucephalandras, since their main source of food is through their leaves. At this point, their roots were not established very much. They are epiphytic plants, as we call them, so they relied on absorbing nutrients through the water, and that thick diatom layer, I do believe, messed a little bit with them. So in the end, I had a lot of melt on my Bucephalandras, which are now growing back. But anyway, you can see how these snails, especially on their leaves, can actually help you minimize the effects of the diatoms. Also, it's important to do your regular water changes, which I was doing here. And I also piped down a little bit on my fertilizer, particularly the nitrogen fertilizer, because that can actually help diatoms as well. And here we are a few days later. You can see where the Bucephalandra melted. I actually added some moss. And can we tell the plants do not look so brown anymore? Yes. Well, it's not only the snails, it's mainly the snails. You can see the rocks already look better. But another thing that I added together with the snails, and this is especially good for plants, is Otocinclus fish. Otocinclus, which we'll see later, can actually remove algae and diatoms much faster than nerites. Nerites are absolutely perfect, and they take their time in removing deposits from pieces of hardware, wood, rocks, and stuff. But when it comes to actual plants, Otocinclus catfish, also maybe bristlenose catfish, do a much better job. So I did end up eventually buying a few Otocinclus as well. Now, here we are. After 3 weeks or so from that footage, things are looking much better. Yes, we still have some brownish hues because the wood is still leaching a little bit of tannin, but we can see that the plants are no longer brown. The decor is no longer just covered in diatom algae. You can see here the melted Bucephalandra. It will grow back, don't worry. The pieces of wood are absolutely spotless. Look at that. I see that the big nerites took a lot of time sitting here and cleaning up the wood. Now they're somewhere else in the tank, but for the first couple of weeks or so, they spent their time only on the wood because there was a lot of food. Here is my little Otocinclus just chilling on a leaf. I actually have 5 Otocinclus, and they took care of this 240-liter tank in a matter of days. There was no more diatoms on the leaves, and you can actually see their little mouths leaving marks on the diatoms on the leaves. They're absolutely fantastic. And here is the downside of having nerite type snails and the Clethon snails. They lay eggs everywhere and they stick. You cannot remove them. Bonus, nothing will come out of these eggs because both the horned nerite, as it's called, and the nerite snail, they need brackish water for their eggs to actually develop into small snails. So you will never have baby snails from these eggs in fresh water, but the eggs will still remain there stuck on leaves and decorations and so on. On the glass, you can remove them easy, but on the decorations, nobody can remove them. But yeah, that's the price we have to pay. And I'm pretty okay with the price because now everything looks a lot better. I don't have any more melting anymore. I'm waiting for the Bucephalandra's rhizomes to start growing again, which they will. But yeah, in severe cases of diatoms, no matter how normal and not so dangerous they are, you can see you can still have some damage to your plants and overall aquarium if you let things get out of hand. So this is how we're looking like today, and in the corner you see how we started. Quite the difference, right? I do still have that brownish hue, but that's just the tannin. There is no more diatom right now in the tank, which is absolutely fantastic. Righty, so how about that? I could not believe it myself. I will give it though, I don't want Amano shrimp. I just don't. I can do without the Amano shrimp. Hopefully we won't have the green hair algae, but everything else, oh my goodness. Now the price we have to pay for having the nerites is the eggs, which of course appeared. They're right there, I can see them, they annoy me, but you know what? That blast diatom algae annoyed me even more. Yes, bird, very annoying. What are we doing? So I'd much rather have a few of these eggs that, you know, in time the shrimps will peck at them. In time it's not gonna be so bad, but I'd rather have them than the horrible diatoms and the overall very brown look. They have an edge. Yeah, the overall brown look of the tank. Right. So I hope we learned something today, besties. Let me know. Did you ever take these guys for granted? Because I know I never will. And yes, I know, depending when I'm gonna upload this video, I know we have more fish than we started with. Yes, I wanted some color because the last thing that I wanted was brown fish, and I discovered at some point that the fish that I had, they weren't very colorful, especially from a distance. Everything was brown. So I went to the shop and I got myself the cheapest, most beautiful fish ever, which we'll talk about in a different video. But yeah, I'm very happy with how the tank looks now, and I think it's time to end it here, birdie, don't you think? It's lazy day. Yes, Christmas has passed, and yeah, we had fun for Christmas and everything. We need to sleep now. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and with Birdie. Get used to her because she's in my business when I'm here. She needs to check and verify everything. And yeah, with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye.